Thank you for coming on this beautiful day outside to be here to actually participate in this program. Can you hear me back there? Oh, yeah. So this evening we're here to listen from you and your comments about the draft environmental impact statement that was prepared for the mandatory housing affordability program. The environmental impact report evaluates proposed reasons to implement the MHA, or mandatory housing affordability. Before I go into that, I just want to sort of take a step back and talk about why we are doing MHA. It is no secret Seattle has experienced an unprecedented growth over the last few years. If you've looked at today's Seattle Sun-Times, the city has, in the last few years, has added more population than King County suburbs all combined. This is a significant rate of growth in the city's history. This is a trend that we see continuing for the foreseeable future. Not only because of Seattle's attractiveness, its natural setting, the incredibly strong economy that it has, but this is a trend nationwide. This is a trend that started taking place at least in the last 20, 25 years. People are moving to center cities in opposed to sprawl. We have now a demographic shift that is taking place. Both baby boomers and millennials significantly are choosing to live in center cities in opposed to sprawl. That is taking place around the country. And we don't see that changing all the way through 2030, 2040 if we look at demographics in that trend. So that's one phenomenon. And for the most part, I think what Seattle's experiencing has significant benefits. Of course, it has one of the lowest unemployment rates in the country. It has significant growth in jobs, especially high-tech jobs, high-paying jobs. The growth is also has a significant impact on the environment. So the city deliberately took a policy decision starting in the early 90s with its comprehensive plan that it is smart to grow in the center rather than sprawl for economic, environmental, and other reasons. So there are those benefits that the growth brings. But as we can see, and most of us experience, there are also significant challenges that we as a city here are experiencing, probably more so in a faster rate than most other cities. But this is taking place in many other cities, as most of you see. And some of the challenges are obviously affordability is the biggest challenge. Displacement is the biggest challenge. And frankly, for Seattle, at the rate it has been growing, right in front of us, the places that we know, people who grew up here, and that is a significant jarring change that people are experiencing. So those are challenging times for us, for all of us, to not only recognize but address. That the specific issues that necessitated the MHA in the city is we, unlike most other cities, haven't had a requirement for private developments to actually contribute towards affordable housing. This is phenomenal that we don't have that as a city compared to other cities that actually require developments pay their way or developments pay for affordable housing. MHA came out of the Housing Affordability and Livability Agenda that actually identified over 60 strategies to address some of the significant challenges that I mentioned. MHA is one piece of that strategy. The idea to create about 6,000 units of housing out of the 20,000 that are projected through the HALA program over the next 10 years. Just to give you an example, over the last few years, actually, just since 2014, when we started this discussion about HALA, to the beginning of mid-November of 2016, we provided building permits for over 23,000 units of just housing, with zero requirement for affordable housing. So if MHA was in place in 2014, we would have captured, just with a similar program, about 1,600 units of affordable housing. That's just without the commercial requirement. So one of the reasons that I think it is really, really important, as much as we have differences about whether we have it perfect, or should it be better, or is it worse? There are opinions on all sides. But the fact that almost in 20 years, for the first time, the city of Seattle is getting to a point of having mandatory requirements, that in itself is a significant progress, and why, in this challenging times, it's important to address affordability through MHA. So this evening, we want to hear from you, and because of some of the challenges that we're facing, I know we all have different opinions, and there's no shortage of that here in Seattle. That's what makes this city one of the greatest cities as well. People are passionate about the place that they want to live in, and the place that they want it to be. So, and there are many opinions, differing opinions, and as we've done for many meetings, we want to hear from everybody, and I hope you'll recognize other opinions and proceed with civility, so that we have enough people participating so that we can hear from all of you. So with that, I'm going to ask Jeff Wetland of my staff to walk you through. We'll have time to
No, small question. Why don't present Seattle channel? Why this first meeting, what as you have for 3 years, no Seattle channel, so people in Seattle cannot see this. It's a private business, I checked with him, it's a comma. Comma not will show everything. You posted, no, 1 second, why you don't doing this? Why you don't doing this? Why?
Thank you. So with that, I'll ask Jeff to walk you through what the draft environmental impact statement comments entail, so that we have effective response from you. Most of it is based on what is in the document, and what to hear from you what we're missing and what is not covered.
Thank you. Yeah, that was Sam Assefa, the Director of our Office of Planning and Community Development. Thank you very much, Sam. So I'm just going to say a couple of words about, before we start the hearing, about making an effective draft EIS comment. My name, by the way, is Jeff Wetland, and I'm a senior planner here at the Office of Planning and Community Development. So the purpose of the environmental impact statement is to provide impartial discussion of environmental impacts and identify reasonable alternatives and mitigation measures to avoid impacts. So we're at the draft EIS stage of the process, and the draft EIS provides an opportunity for you, the public, and agencies to review the analysis and make a comment about how it can be improved for adequacy and completeness. I want to emphasize that there's no final proposal at this time, and the final proposal could include a mix of all the best ideas that have been studied so far. A final EIS will be prepared later this fall, and it will include a preferred alternative, and that will be similar to what we send to the City Council for their review as legislation. The final EIS will also include a direct response to all of your substantive comments that address the environmental analysis. What makes an effective substantive comment for you tonight? It should address draft EIS and focus on the environmental impact statement. This is not the ideal time to comment on things you care about that are outside of this proposal, or to kind of express your general opposition or support for MHA. It's a time to comment on the environmental information. I also want to emphasize that your written comments carry just the same weight as a verbal comment you might make here tonight. So consider making a written comment. It would be in your own words. It could be as detailed as you want it to be, and you'd have more than 3 more weeks to formulate that comment. So I just want to also note that there's been extensive community engagement to date about HALA and MHA, over 18 months worth, hundreds of meetings. And so all of that input that some of you may have been involved in to date will be considered in what's put forward as the preferred alternative, alongside this environmental information. The City Council makes the final decision, and there will be additional chances for you to give input to the Council. They expect to take several months to review your comments before making a vote around the spring of next year. So tonight we're going to be allowing for 2 minutes of comment for each of you. Everyone who's signed up on the list. You'll see the clock start when you begin your comments. And we'll be calling 2 folks up at a time. There are 2 microphones, one on each side, so when I call your name, just come on up to the microphone and you can begin your comment. Thank you. The first 2 commenters are Ira Appleman and Alex Zimmerman.
Oh, you want this microphone? I want this too.
You can have it right after me. Okay. I'm concerned about the parking issues, and I don't think parking is treated in the DEIS in an impartial discussion of environmental impact. For example, the city admits that parking is very difficult in many neighborhoods. For example, it says on 3213, with the increase in development expected under alternatives 2 and 3, particularly in urban villages, which already tend to have high on-street parking utilization, parking demand will be higher than the no-action alternative. Therefore, significant adverse parking impacts are expected under alternatives 2 and 3. And the city admits in a different part that right now some neighborhoods are over 100% parking required, so that you can't find parking there at all. Then, in talking about mitigations, one of the mitigations that is indicated, parking maximums would be limit the number of parking spaces which can be built with new development. So a mitigation, according to the city, is to limit the number of parking spaces in new developments, not to increase the number, to limit it. How that is a mitigation is hard for me to understand. And then in the end, the city claims in terms of impacts, the city says the parking impacts are anticipated to be brought to a less than significant level by implementing a range of possible mitigation strategies. None of the strategies that the city talks about are going to bring parking into any reasonable situation. I'm also concerned that the piecemeal way the city is doing this. East Lake is having trouble. I'm from East Lake Fair Grove, Ira Appleman, East Lake Fair Grove. And there's a loss, there's going to be, according to the city, based on their corridor study, there's going to be a loss of another 300 parking spaces on East Lake Avenue East. And because of the piecemeal approach, the University District upzoning is going to have a big effect on East Lake. But those sorts of things between the U District as well as the downtown and South Lake Union were excluded from this DEIS, and they should have been included in the DEIS so that we could see the parking issues throughout Seattle. Thank you.
Thank you, Ira. Next is Alex Zimmerman, and then Deb Jackwith.
Hi, Michael. My people. Guys, I am Alex Zimmerman. I candidate for city mayor. It's not my first election. Look what has happened with HALA. HALA is very interesting trick what is made Mayor Murray in concert.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Can you speak to the microphone a little better?
Oh, okay. HALA is very interesting trick, guys. What is make Murray in concert. It looks like a bumper, you know what it means. So you cannot blame Murray and blame council. You can blame HALA. So look with HALA. It's a crook #1. And I call him a Nazi, local government, a Nazi social democrat with progressive Islamic principles. That's exactly what has happened. So look, it's 2014, last meeting for 3 years, and no comment. All meeting supposed to be in Seattle channel. Why? It's crook and one doing it. Because the one what these people built in talking about this group. What is this group did is idiotic situation. We have 100,000 family who need support. We have 12,000 homeless what is need support. When you read my salute to the nation, what is I give to everybody, I can fix this problem very easy without paying of people money. I understand about it. It's very simple. Well, this is group for 3 years, never one make meeting like this. When you see this, my proposition very simple. Every week supposed to be, we come to this room, better room, we start talking about problem, what is we have. But this group don't want to use this. This is exactly what is happening. This group, same identical like another 30 or 50 commission what is we have in Seattle. Because it's control same kinds of people. This group need to be moved out. Without this, nothing will be changed. So when you don't doing this, nobody will do it. So stop and acting like an idiot. You start understand there is a problem. You understand about it? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alex. So Deb, followed by Ratna Wara.
Hi, I'm Deb Jaquith, Chair for the Crown Hill Urban Village Committee for Smart Growth. Crown Hill has been clear about our support for smart growth. We know growth is inevitable. If we work together, we really believe we can mitigate the impacts of expected growth while creating more affordable housing and hopefully more livable communities in Seattle. To us, the idea is a win-win. That said, the EIS does not adequately address the size and scope of the investments required to create the density proposed in either alternative 2 or 3. The need for critically necessary infrastructure investments such as transit, policing, public services, and utilities does not have adequate review. Many of the mitigations suggested in the EIS have been notoriously difficult to fund and achieve in the past. The DEIS also does not consider development that is currently planned in its growth projections, significantly lowballing the growth estimates needed for adequate assessment of impacts. In CHUV, for example, we have 21 projects.
Can you slow down just a little bit?
Are you kidding? My time's almost up. In CHUV, for example, we have 21 projects and 650 new housing units in the development pipeline today. This is only 50 units less than the 700 units the city projects to be built by 2035 under the Alt 1 no action. The 700 projected units by 2035 is not remotely realistic for the real likely growth in our community. We request that the DEIS for all UVs include the development currently in the permitting process, particularly in considering for expansions and significant new growth in all 2 and 3. Crown Hill Urban Village Committee for Smart Growth believes that the alternative 2 maps more closely address the demands of growth that growth is placing our city and our community. Alternative 2 also reflects many of the principles expressed by neighbors in CHUV for smart growth in our neighborhood by maximizing opportunity for redevelopment of underutilized big box stores and parking lots in the urban village center along arterials. All 2 also minimizes growth in the areas of the community that have neither infrastructure nor viable options to move should displacement occur. Without critical infrastructure required to support larger scale growth in much of Crown Hill, alternative 3 places undue burdens on the community without providing any tangible increase in affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb.
Just to let everyone know really quickly, I'm Sarah Maxam, I'm the citywide project manager for HALA. We are joined here at the table by a stenographer who is taking recording of all of the comments that we received today. Because they are entered into the formal record for the EIS, we do have to respond to them through the EIS process, and so she's helping us out by recording your comments and typing them up. If you speak really fast, especially with acronyms, it's harder for her to get them down in record. So if you could try to slow down a little bit, we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
That's why we should have had the Seattle channel here.
Yeah.
Where did the 2 minutes?
Agreed.
Okay,
2 minutes.
so
Paradox.
Ratna Wara is next, followed by Mary Ann Presley.
Hi, my name is Ratna Wara. I'm with the Crown Hill Urban Village Committee for Smart Growth. We believe that the draft EIS does not adequately evaluate and inform the environmental impacts and mitigations needed. An analysis of the UVs, like Crown Hill Urban Village, that have lagged behind in basic infrastructure and planning investments from the city, particularly is missing the following 3 items. Item number 1, safe pedestrian mobility. There's a big difference in walkability between UVs that have sidewalks and those who don't. There is no acknowledgement of this in the EIS. In mitigation, there is no commitment to utilizing existing projects to address pedestrian safety on streets without sidewalks. Number 2, transit. Comparing the 4 expansion UVs not getting light rail with the ones who do does not establish true cost of supplement transit to compensate for mobility. Point number 3, stormwater flooding and drainage. In UVs with open culverts and a history of flooding, specifically in UVs that will experience a large expansion into current single-family areas, we will lose permeable surfaces and tree canopy. General statement, we feel that there needs to be more time for online public comment. Then the final ES should also address the following 2 items. Item number 1, compare smaller groups of UVs with more similar relevant infrastructure and environmental traits. Number 2, it should fit the real impacts on livability and better predict the investments needed to prepare UVs to accept the coming growth. And now in closing, the neighborhoods that have historically lagged behind on infrastructure investments, particularly in the far north and far south of Seattle, also tend to be some of the most affordable and historically neglected areas. Please don't perpetuate the problem. Thank you.
20 seconds to spare there. So just a reminder too that if you're not able to get through your complete comment, please submit that via email or in an online comment form. That's just as good as your verbal comment. So next is Mary Ann.
I am here. My name is Mary Ann Pressing. I'm here to give a face to those who are being displaced. I'd like to address 2 issues. 1, affordability. Number 2, traffic. Affordability. I have lived in one apartment for 27 years now, and I call it my home. In the building, others have lived there, for 10 to 15 years. We are teachers, firefighters, store clerks, secretaries, musicians, among other professions. We all make far less than the published $80,000 minimum income for Seattle. What was once affordable rent has suddenly skyrocketed throughout the neighborhood and seems to have happened overnight. Now the projection of more increases are on the way. I feel the large income of new buildings, Hala included, have impacted the area, even though they're not built. All people have the right, the earned right, to live in affordable housing. Since my housing is about the $30,000 income, I will not qualify for Hala low-income housing. So then, what will affordable housing look like for those far below the $80,000, but above the $30,000? And what will developers do after their 12 years? Number 2, traffic on North 45th and North 50th, directed towards east and west, is already seriously impacted throughout the day, especially during commuter hours. How will more hollow apartments impact an already complicated road system? Thank you.
Megan Broder, followed by Garrett McCullough.
Can you raise the mic?
It sound like it's on.
Hello?
There we go.
Now it is. Yeah.
Well, here, definitely, thank you so much for your heartfelt. That was incredible. So I'm Megan Brookler. I rent a home. I'm a single mom of 2 kids. I definitely would live in panic about getting a call that my rent's going to go up, and where would I go? I've never divorced. I've never been in this situation before, so it's very scary. Crown Hill is a neighborhood that the DEIS references as a UP that has some of the city's most affordable rents. Interestingly, there are wide swaths of our UP where people pay a high percentage of their income for housing costs, and the census indicates our community is growing and racially diverse. Many of our neighbors work in regular jobs that make the city run day to day. But we want to live within our city limits. We want to stay here. Teachers, firefighters, small business owners, and bus drivers live on these streets. The city's DEIS displacement assessment and conclusions in Appendix I point to the higher displacement risks in high opportunity neighborhoods experiencing rapid change. Rapid change may influence housing demand, drive up housing costs, and create displacement as the neighborhood becomes more desirable, happening right now, already happening. In an article published in Next City on June 23rd, a city planner said, we actually found that the displacement of low-income households correlated more strongly with high-opportunity areas than it did with high-risk displacement areas. Crown Hill Village is one of those neighborhoods. Draft DEIS findings indicate our community would suffer from higher displacement because of rapid change and increased demand. The goal of mandatory housing affordability is to secure affordable housing. I am absolutely with you. CHUV requests that the final EIS evaluate displacement in neighborhoods like ours, which are rapidly changing and have been for months and 2 years. Please consider developing incentives for areas in the UVs that will minimize displacement. In our neighborhood, that means incentivizing development where we currently have large big box stores and empty parking lots, which can be redeveloped into 5-story neighborhood commercial.
Thank you, Megan.
Okay,
Followed by Barrett Coltite.
Hey there, my name is Garrett McCulloch. I live in the Crown Hill area. I'm actually in one of the areas proposed to be added to the urban village. And I want to start by saying, I think, well, I have not read all 400, et cetera, pages of this. From what I have looked at, it looks like this is a good start, and I really appreciate the depth that you've gone into. A couple of questions I had is, what is going to be the effect of, I don't know if this was explicitly addressed, but what's going to be the effect on the different housing types that are likely to be built? Because I've noticed that most new development I see is 1- to 2-bedroom apartments at most, and I think there really is a need for additional larger family-sized housing that might have to be at a higher density than the current single-family home. And what effect either alternative will have on the different housing types. And in general, though, I think that this does make clear that either of the two alternatives, while they might not get to the level of housing we're going to need 20, 30 years from now, are definitely, it makes it clear that they definitely do more to approach those goals than the no-action alternative. So, thanks. 15 seconds.
Thank you, Garrett. We can follow up and try to get you some information. Barrett, followed by Janine Reese.
Hi, my name is Barrett Colway. I'm a resident of Morgan Street Junction since about 1988, before the word urban village extended beyond Greenwich Village. So just bought this house, not as a speculator or anything else, so I have a homeowner perspective. I'd like to first call out Sam. I didn't fully catch the name, but I felt that it was the first time I was actually spoken to as somebody on a human level trying to capture the full picture. Prior to this, I have felt that there's been an air of indifference and disregard for my experience. And I want to thank Sam for spinning it and showing me that it's not just about how I feel about things. So it's a good reminder, but something long overdue, so I applaud Sam. What brought me here was, aside from having attended some of the other meetings, was an article early in June. City, buried on B1 or something. City studies impact neighborhood zoning changes, some otherwise relaxing Saturday morning. Giving many areas a more urban character, blah, 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 per the paper's words. But they wouldn't have a significant negative impact on elements of city life, such as another print inch of good. I am sorry, but whose definition of quality, I take that as quality of life, whose definition of quality of life is that? Especially defining what I mean to be quality of life. So I don't feel as though I've been stuck in on this this part of the chapter, or this questioning. So I would like to be asked what defines quality of life for me. Ironically enough, yes, I'm a house in Stone's Throw off California, so there is a difference of zone between me and my immediate neighbor. They just sold, family have held it for decades. I'm happy for them. It's housed their family. Within 1 week of the sale being finalized, the permit was posted on West Seattle blog. News in West Seattle, 1 unit is becoming a 7-row house. That cannot be quality of life. I will never see daylight again in my home. So, in that 2% development fee in Southwood Union.
Yeah.
That would mean more.
Yeah.
I mean, please.
Thank you.
It's impossible not to feel the deck is stacked. And so I want to be clear about that.
Janine Reese, followed by Benjamin Anderson.
32 days is not enough. Extend the review period to 90 days.
Yeah.
Really, you don't want reviews because you can't provide us enough adequate time to review an 800-page, including appendices, environmental impact statement that by reference incorporates the EIS of the 2035 comp plan, which we also have to read, so it's really not 800-page environmental impact statement. You know, you scheduled this release at the beginning of summer travel. Bad time. Additionally, the comp plan EIS was not done for the same stated purpose, nor does it address some of the impacts and how you can bootstrap that an earlier and different EIS into this EIS without any discussion of the obvious specific differences defies logic and accepted EIS protocol. For police, fire, emergency, and schools, my initial review of the EIS flabbergasts me. The response is pretty much, don't worry, they'll figure out something. And that's pretty much what it says, they will cope. Question, when did the EIS initially start? A review of some of the data in it shows very old and very outdated statements, such as Paramount Elementary School, which opened 3 years ago, and several other schools that it makes it sound like we're in the pipeline, but actually aren't. And for the final EIS, how long are you going to give us to review it? Are you going to delegate or designate within that EIS the differences between the draft EIS and the final EIS so we can figure out what you changed?
Yeah.
We don't want to have to do a side-by-side comparison with 2 separate computer screens up in order to figure out what you changed between 2 documents that are massive.
Yeah.
Followed by Marguerite Richard.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity to speak. I'm Ben Anderson. I'm with Welcome Long.
Look up the mic, please.
Oh, sorry.
You kind of have to yell in it because that's...
Okay, is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. So, like I said, I'm Ben Anderson. I'm with Welcoming Wallingford. All of my comments today are my own. First, thanks for having this open house. Thanks for the extended 45-day comment period on this. The study is long, but that's quite a bit of time. And also thanks to all the city's employees who've been answering my questions here today. It's very helpful. Finally, I support the goal of Alternative 3 to provide more housing and growth in areas with higher access to opportunity and lower displacement risk. That seems like it makes sense. I'd also ask the city to study whether zoning can also be used as a tool to provide additional opportunity in areas that currently lack it, especially working with local community developments to try to study the impact that that could have, especially if we can have M1 or M2 tier changes in those neighborhoods, in addition to providing more affordable units. The rents in those neighborhoods are already lower, and we get lower rents and market rate units in that kind of neighborhood as well. Again, thanks for your time.
Thank you, Benjamin. Marguerite, followed by Philip Colette.
Hello! Oh, I just want to make sure you can hear. Anyway, I wanted to say that I'm holding a guide to housing options, and I am reading something that says that it will include affordable homes for low-income families or make payments to the Office of Housing to fund affordable housing. And that's the scary part. I mean, it's like this song, God bless the child that's got his own. And then that's God shall get. So would you say that Paul Allen has that? And so the lower people on the total pole, this is scary for me because I was born and raised in Seattle. And I don't understand this. I mean, you say, well, go back to school and get a PhD, and maybe you can understand it. I just don't feel comfortable with anything that's attached to saying affordable when I hear all the people they call whiners, they come to the council meetings and say that there's no such thing because people are being priced out. See, are they liars? Or are they telling the truth? See, I'm really getting fixated on this stuff. And it's causing me trauma because I'm black, and I know a lot of black people have been, like the woman was saying, displaced. Africa Town. I mean, where is it? I mean, they say it's over there in the CD, but I'm running out of time, as usual. 2 minutes, and then we get told what to say. That's not fair either.
Right.
But I'm saying there needs to be some more discussion about this because this is scaring the heck out of me. And I'm saying for those that don't have a PhD, they probably are in their homes right now bouncing off the walls if we could put a camera up in there and see what's going on up in there.
Philip, followed by Bonnie Williams.
Hi, my name is Phil Lottie, and I grew up in the Roosevelt neighborhood, and I live currently in Wallingford. First, I want to thank you guys. I understand your end of the table is a difficult place to be sometimes in public meetings. First, I want to say that the comment period on this EIS is entirely inadequate. As she pointed out, this is a hugely complex document. I have barely gotten into one section of it, much less the appendices, and if you're looking for gaps, you need to actually be looking at materials outside of it. The fact that this is the last oral comment period and we only have 3 more weeks to do written, when we need to be learning from each other, even just what to focus on in terms of discussing the EIS is shocking. It's wholly inadequate. The people who wrote it had a full-time job and could do it during the day. The people who are reading it are trying to do it at night. Secondly, the EIS really has no meaningful alternatives. It has the grand bargain and the grand bargain. Yep. There are some fundamental misunderstandings about Seattle in terms of the entire government thinks that single-family housing is single families. I grew up in a house where we rented rooms in our house. There were more people not part of our family living in it than there were people in our family. Our current block in Wallingford has more places with rental space in them than not. The people who are working at the daycares in our area are people who are renting rooms in these houses. The analysis of the proper analysis of single-family houses and their ability to be a sponge to soak up more people, including with grandmother, mother-in-law apartments, etc., is not analyzed. Transportation, lower-income people need to worry more about being in the gig economy and having cars to do Instacart, having ride shares. Rideshare companies have people circling around on the streets, so there's actually more people driving on the streets when you restrict parking and have people using rideshare.
Thank you, Philip. Followed by David Ward. Bonnie Williams, followed by David Ward.
Hi, good evening. I have been following this process very closely, and Jeff has joked with me because I'm down here all the time, and I never was before. But I agree that the EIS draft needs to have more time for people to look at it. I don't think it's a good thing to be looking at it in isolation. I think it needs a group process. And we've tried to form a group in our neighborhood to study it together because it's really hard to understand this much very quickly. And when you talk about things, you understand them better. Somebody might clarify something for you and vice versa. Anyway, of the 3 alternatives, which that part I've read, I think that alternative 1 actually is the best because there are 224,000 existing space for housing in Seattle. It doesn't mean that growth stops because you use this. Growth continues. No one thinks that growth is going to stop. The upzones are a giveaway in the grand bargain. I have never supported the grand bargain. I think backroom deals when you're a mayor of Seattle and you have no business setting up something that can be challenged in court, and that this program can fall apart if it is challenged in court. And what do they do with the upzones if it's already going into place? It's very unfair to be in that situation. It also costs money to go to court to fight. And who pays for that but the public? Alternative, the giveaways in the grand bargain are upzones, greater height, bulk, FAR covering more ground. We lose setbacks, we lose yards, we lose trees, we lose family housing, because what's being built right now is CDUs, small, 1 bedrooms, not so many, 3 bedrooms. People still want that. Single-family homes have stood the test of time. They've stabilized neighborhoods. They have kept crime rates down. They should not be eliminated. I think that that is a big mistake for Seattle. Seattle is the hottest housing market in the country. We don't need to incentivize market rate housing.
Yeah! Followed by Natalie Williams.
It's critical to extend the time to respond to the DEIS. I take this stupid book with me everywhere. This doesn't even include the appendices. And there's also 81 additional references, which are an additional 1,000 pages. Thousands of pages. A couple of us met with Jeff Nutland, who's the coordinator for the MHA Environmental Impact Statement. And a lot of things that we asked for were not included in the DEIS. Broader action and no action alternatives. The city is only considering 2 action alternatives, both in which include upzones with a proposed increase in height and floor areas. And none of the alternatives reflected the growth proposals of neighborhood plans in any urban village. We requested that you use alternatives that use 15%, 20%, 25%, and 30% affordable housing. You rejected 25%, and you have not done any of the others. We suggested that you use policy solutions suggested in Solutions to Seattle's Housing Emergency. Those were not included, and there are over 50 recommendations in there that should be included that would help affordability tremendously. Include all the projects that were currently in the pipeline, whether projected, planned, or permitted. I've examined the city's SDCI records and have found over 80,000 units that fit these stated categories, and an additional 5,000 in single-family units. That's 90%. That's more than the alternative 1 and 90% of the alternatives 2 and 3. Determine the current situation for a baseline in the following issues: affordability, transportation, environment, and public services. Without a full accounting of the current situation, it's difficult to look at the future. And include the impacts of institutional overlays. And then since the DEIS has been issued, 90% of the units built recently have been luxury units. Yeah. What's the impact on the cost of housing and economic racial equity of having all these luxury units built? DEIS also does not assess the impacts outside of urban villages, and that's critical to do. And a large portion of the affordable housing currently and in the future will be MFT, multifamily tax exemption, which expire for each project after 12 years. What's the economic impact on the housing prices and displacement once those expire?
Hi, my name is Natalie Williams. I'm a third-year engineer at one company, and my comment addresses how we can focus to improve the analysis in the CIS. In my reading of this document, I found no comparative analysis presented. I believe a comparative analysis presents the existing situation versus the resulting proposal. An appropriate an appropriate assessment would document the existing public views, sunlight, direct sunlight to the sidewalk, existing shadow effects, and then assess and present the loss of public views, the loss of direct sunlight to the sidewalk, measured at the same place on the same date.
and that can all be simulated. And it will show the increased shadow effects to all impacted public spaces, including as much as 2 blocks away for these new high-rise MF and NC proposals that we're seeing for the first time in this DEIS. This is not presented in the DEIS, and therefore this assessment is inadequate. On page 1.23, in the same section, I think it's 3.3 aesthetics, there's discussions of hypothetical measures that could be implemented. There is no quantitative analytical plan for adopting these measures. Therefore, this paragraph falls short of an assessment, which would include this. These topics have been included in neighborhood design guidelines in urban village plans and not incorporated into these proposals. These heights are in violation of the neighborhood plan, and they are now more so in more violation with these newly introduced heights that were undiscussed and previously undisclosed. For the assessment to introduce a concept of working with neighborhood groups and then not include a strategy that includes a schedule to reconcile the neighborhood plans is not an assessment. The assessment is inadequate.
Hi there, I'm commenting as president of the Morgan Community Association, which represents the Morgan Junction Urban Village. Number 1, extend the DEIS comment period by no less than 45 days. This is critical since the DEIS proposes height increases much larger than those depicted in the MHA documents for Morgan Junction Urban Village. And Morgan Junction needs more time to analyze this anomaly. 2, we commented about the portions of the pre-EIS MHA proposal that are in conflict with the Morgan Junction neighborhood plan. And our neighborhood plan, which actually created the urban village, was developed with extensive public outreach and neighborhood participation. We requested that the city address these comments, these conflicts at the neighborhood planning level to no avail. My question is, how will the EIS reconcile the fact that all 2 and all 3 are in conflict with the existing urban village neighborhood plan? And number 3, the DEIS assigns Morgan Junction tall and taller alternatives to reach affordable housing goals, with no guarantee that our community will ever see any of that affordable housing. Residents in Morgan Junction have alternatives that don't fit into the one-size-fits-all urban village formula because we do want affordable housing in our community. Why weren't our alternatives incorporated into the DEIS? Lastly, on a personal note, I personally support all 1 for the Morgan Junction Urban Village. Thank you.
Beautiful
last name Brighton.
So I'm Brooke.
Melina, maybe, Velma, Carrie. From Brighton. Velma. You're next. You're at Brooke Best next, and then Velma.
Okay. So Brooke Best, and I'm here on behalf of Historic Seattle. Historic Seattle, since 1974, has been advocating for thoughtful and meaningful preservation and rehabilitation of historic buildings, and as our mission states, the creation of a more livable environment. We brought back life to threatened and neglected historic properties throughout Seattle, several of which provide affordable housing. Bellboy, Vic Road, Peg Phillips are some of our properties. Historic Seattle shares the city's concern about the lack of affordable housing. We have done a number of events to address the issue of affordable housing and historic preservation, including a community forum with city staff. Here are some ways that historic preservation and affordability intersect. Older buildings provide a diversity of housing types. Research has shown they perform better in terms of environmental, economic, and social metrics. Older, smaller buildings tend to provide more units of affordable rental housing than taller, newer developments. Older neighborhoods, as you heard in other public comments, contain hidden density. From Boston's North End to Miami's Little Havana, It's been demonstrated that